Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. About 3 weeks ago, when I last made my last video, I had woken up on a Monday and I just had this anxiety just rushing through my whole body. And like from the moment I'd woken up, every second, like a new negative thought was being created. And it was like continuous. And I was panicking and my heart was racing and I was confused. And I was like, what is going on, God? And what I could compare it to was like when I was like back in 2020 when I was in a relationship. I was in a relationship with this girl, and I liked her so much, and I created my identity in how our relationship was going, and in the relationship, and in her. So she was like my source. She was the light, and when I was not with her, I was depressed, and I was thinking negative thoughts like, how does she feel about me, or like if we had a bad discussion or had a bad conversation, I'd be like, okay, things are going bad because of this and that, and I could compare it to that, and fast forward to 2020, fast forward to 3 weeks ago, I was walking and I was so angry. I was like, God, why have you left me the same? Why have you not changed me in the past 4 years? Why have you left me to still have this anxiety? And God was just saying to me, it's like, I have, I have, I've allowed this anxiety to come again for me to show you that it's not finished. But the only way that anxiety is going to disappear is when you need me. And when you continuously need me. And he was just like, the moment you go away from me, you will have that anxiety again of thinking negative thoughts and creating your identity in individuals and in people. And throughout my whole life, from the age of 5, I've been gathering my identity in how I am with people. If I'm good with people, then I feel good about myself. And identity is who you are. And so I feel good. And if things are bad, then I don't feel good about myself. And um I have stressed and I've panicked and I've pushed my body to such limits, all in the name of having this good identity with people. And um, going back to 2020, just as the relationship ended because of the anxiety, of course, I, I had realized, I had done some research, and I found out that I have this attachment style. And I think there are about like 4 attachment styles, and one of them is called anxious attachment. And I think I'll put a link down in this video just so you can see it out, and may God as a prayer point to see like where are you and how God can assist you. So I found out that I have this anxious attachment, which is just more along the lines of getting my identity in relationships and not feeling worthy and not having a good self esteem and all of this kind of stuff, where it's just like you don't feel good about yourself. And yeah, just a whole lot of that. And I realized that I was getting my identity in things. I was getting my identity in everything else but God. And even right now in life, as I'm praying for, things of, a job and stuff like that. And I fear that, not that I fear, because in Jesus' name, I believe that He is working on me right now. Is just trying to not get my identity in the job, that, okay, when I get the job, people will take me as a serious person, or like, okay, I feel like, okay, I am somebody now because I've got a job, or I am somebody now because I've got money, or I am somebody now because I've got these new shoes, or I am somebody now because I've got these biceps, or what happens when I get an injury and God forbid, like I break my arm or something. Where does my identity go? Or like when my shoes get torn, where does my identity go? Or God forbid, like business doesn't go well, where does my identity go? How is my relationship with my wife and my children at that stage? If I've rooted my identity in the world and in objects and in this stuff, or in my good fashion sense, or in hair, where whatever. If I've rooted my identity in my hair, what happens to my identity when my hair and I go bald? What happens then? Or if I root my identity in this relationship with this wife that God is going to give me, what happens when she, God forbid, like somebody's going to die first? What happens when she dies or I die? What's going to happen? Where does my identity go? Do I crash? Do I get destroyed or what? And I've rooted so much of my confidence in what I can get and what I can achieve. And identity is not to be achieved, it's supposed to be received. And it's received from knowing that God is your father. Any identity received from any achievements or whosoever that comes into your life is is distractions. It's going to cause problems in your life, and it's because there's only one thing that's stable in this life that we're living, that is God. He never changes. His word, his goodness, his mercy, his presence, his favor, his love, what he says, it never changes. But the words of men, things, everything changes and there's no stability. And Tim Keller, 3 weeks ago, I actually watched a Tim Keller video and he said, somebody has to name you. And he says, are you the one who's naming yourself? Because if you are the one who's naming yourself, we know that the heart of man is wicked and we know that we are foolish. Because he was even talking about how 10 years ago, you looking back at yourself 10 years ago, wouldn't you say that person was foolish? And you 10 years from now, looking back at yourself, you say, this person right now is foolish. And you are deciding to allow that person to name you. Is there stability in that person? And then it was like just talking about how are you allowing you to be named by other people who are not stable, who can have false opinions, who can treat you good one day and treat you bad then the next day. Even the people so close to you that you love so much and highly respect, they can treat you good one day and the next day they don't treat you good, or they can say one bad thing, maybe like just one a word or statement that you just like often, but that just affects your whole identity of who you are just because of what they have said, even though they didn't have the intentions or whatever. Or as we're talking about the objects and stuff, he said somebody has to name you. And it's, don't you want that person who is naming you to be that somebody who is stable, who never changes, whose love is overflowing? And it just made me think about the story about Jesus, how God came down in the flesh, you know, and was a carpenter and didn't have any like, physical property or anything. And he came down and he lived and he could have money, but like you didn't see him like wearing any like glamorous clothes or anything because he didn't get his identity in any physical thing or any relation in he got his identity in his relationship with God, but nothing physical about anybody that he had seen. Nobody that he had seen. And even the story about when he was washing the feet of his disciples, we were like, oh no, I know who I am and this and that, and I can't wash the feet of that. But God knew who he was. He didn't care about how anybody had seen him or anything like that. And even in the Bible, it just makes me think about the story of Joseph and Mary, how they know who they were in the bigger picture of, they were just grateful that they could be able to be the father and mother of Jesus Christ. And I'm just thinking about myself, if I was Joseph, how God told Joseph, name him Jesus because he's going to be the one to free men of sin. And some of us, would be like, no, no, no. Even though he's that, I'm not handling this thing. Either, one of you could have said, this child is going to go far away. Well, I'm not going to be with this woman. But because he knew who he was and he knew that he was part of something bigger than that of himself, and he remained. And even it's like with Mary, that he was going to give birth to the Holy Spirit, and you know, like she didn't care about any humiliation that was going to be faced from people, that because in a worldly mentality and mindset, you will not understand that this is truly true, how she was able to conceive the child, how she was able to be pregnant with Jesus Christ. But she didn't care about how anybody said, because she knew what God had said and she knew what God is doing. And even though the humiliation of that whole story was temporary, even if it was forever, she's cool. I believe she was gonna be cool with it because she didn't base her identity in what other people had said. She had based her identity about what God had said about her. So even if the humiliation of, oh, she was cheating on Joseph with somebody else and wada, she couldn't care less because she had built her identity on God. And I'm no finished work, and I know that God is working on me, and he's slowly building my identity in Him and what He has and what He said. And I know I've made a lot of videos on this. I've made a video, normalize. Yeah, check out that video. And I've made a lot of videos about insecurity and stuff like that. And yeah, but I'm very grateful. I know that God is doing something in me, and I know that changing my identity from man and worldly things is not something that I can do on my own. And I'm grateful for God for that He is working on me, and He's working in me, and He's changing me. And yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope this video was of some help to you. Believe it, imagine it, see it with your eyes that you need Him, that you need to get your identity in Him, and see what. Try to see like what Jesus was seeing. Try to see what Joseph was seeing. Try to see what Mary was seeing, and spend time in your Word. And God will work on you and work with you through you. Peace out, guys. Love you guys.